Welcome to this great feast of All Saints. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Seeing the crowds, Jesus went up the hill. There he sat down and was joined by his disciples. Then he began to speak, and this is what he taught them. How happy are the poor in spirit, theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Happy the gentle, they shall have the earth for their heritage. Happy those who mourn, they shall be comforted. Happy those who hunger and thirst for what is right, they shall be satisfied. Happy the merciful, they shall have mercy shown them. Happy the pure in heart, they shall see God. Happy the peacemakers, they shall be called children of God. Happy are those who are persecuted in the cause of right, theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Happy are you when people abuse you and persecute you and speak all kinds of calumny against you on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven. The Gospel of the Lord. Looking out of the chapel house window this afternoon, it was very beautiful. There are many trees in the foreground. Each tree, of course, is different. Evergreens like the conifer and the fir. However, one of the magnificent trees to look at is the white beech. Adjacent to the church garden, we have one, and it's a very old tree. Clearly, it was planted about 70 or 80 years ago. Its branches spread out wide and large. The trunk is solid and very sturdy. However, the colour of the leaves are magnificent. They're copper brown, pale yellow, a hint of green and dark brown. The leaves are falling to the ground and lie like a warm, inviting carpet. Autumn is one of the most beautiful seasons of the year. Autumn is the season for winding down, of course, and resting from the growth of spring and the great fullness of summer. It's a time of long, dark nights, pulling the curtains or blinds, and thoughts of Christmas. God, in his goodness, has created all this wonder that we may enjoy and give thanks for. In November, the people of Canada and North America celebrate Thanksgiving. It must be said, however, the native Indians of both countries were badly treated in the acquisition of their land and indeed of their culture. But Thanksgiving is an important element of our human lives, or should be. When we think someone shows our grace and appreciation, rather we thank them. The person who is being thanked feels all the better for being recognised and appreciated. Today we remember with thanksgiving all the people we have known and have gone before us, marked with the sign of faith. Ordinary people, our relatives, our friends, work colleagues, neighbours, and people who have shown us kindness in the most ordinary but extraordinary ways. Today we thank God for their example and their influence in our lives. An elderly man was on a bus, and the bus stopped at the bus stop. It was in days when people could get on buses at an appointed time, and they could stand waiting for the bus, and the bus would arrive. He got on the bus and he was holding a bunch of flowers. It so happens that it was his wife's birthday, and the flowers were pink roses, a dozen of them. And he was very pleased with himself when he sat down with his cap on and looked out the window. At the next stop, a young girl came on, probably just about first year in high school. And she came on with her blazer, although it was Saturday. But she looked very neat and very tidy in her uniform. She sat down opposite the old man and she kept looking at the flowers. He looked at her, looking at the flowers, and wondered what she was thinking. Eventually, as the journey wore on, he said to her, "Do you like these flowers I'm holding? They're for my wife. Today it's her birthday, and she's quite old, even older than me." And she began to blush, and she said, "The flowers are beautiful. I'm sure they smell lovely." The man, in his kindness, gave the girl the flowers, and both sat in silence until it was time to get off. And strangely enough, both stood up and had then to go down the steps of the bus and onto the pavement. The man, because he was old, was slower at walking, and the girl walked on, past a cemetery gate and into the smaller gate where pedestrians could go in. He decided to look and see what she was doing. He didn't have to go into the graveyard, but he saw into the railing, and he saw the girl kissing the flowers and kneeling down and arranging them at the graveside. And the old man wept tears because he realized that the flowers he was giving his wife was given to someone who needed them more. The girl probably didn't have the money to buy them. It made his day, it made his week, and that story enchanted his wife, and that was better than any birthday present. The man was edified by the girl's action and the beauty of her gesture. Not all acts of kindness are met with a fine outcome, though. Jesus experienced many negative remarks and actions because of what he said and what he did. Only a couple of weeks ago, we heard of the woman cured of an illness on the Sabbath was met with great hostility. The Pharisees and the scribes, those who were looking on, were more interested in the letter of the law than they were about the condition of this woman, more interested in their false piosity than the compassionate act of kindness that Jesus performed. None of us can perform such great acts of kindness, but the people we have known, the people who have gone before us, have influenced our lives by such small acts of kindness. A warm welcome when we went into our grandmother's house, a kiss on the top of the head as we were leaving for school, warm soup in a big soup bowl with bread that you could dip in, a fire that was burning in the hearth to give us warmth, places where we were welcomed and we were appreciated for who we were. This is the kindness that mirrors the face of God. And all these people who will not be known by Saint such and such are the people we just know deep within our hearts are close to God, in that kingdom where there is no more suffering, no more sadness, but only delight, peace, joy, and contentment. A young couple were married. This took place at the very south of England, quite near Cornwall. And it was a small wedding. And they didn't really have an awful lot of money to go on a fancy honeymoon. So they decided to go to a place in Cornwall nearby. They motored down and the car began to shudder and stop. Neither of them had a clue about cars or how they operated. They just filled them with petrol. Both get out of the car, took their bags and started walking. hoping that they would find an hotel. So happened in the distance, in that rainy night, they saw a small cottage with a light in the window. And so they decided to go, champ the door, and ask if they could help and point to an hotel where they could stay. The couple knocked the door, and an old woman came to the door with a long white apron on. And she just looked at them. And as the girl, the new bride, pulled up her collar, she saw rice falling from her shoulders. And she just knew that they were a newly married couple. And the new husband said, "Our car has broken down. Could you tell us where we could stay for the night?" And she said, "Why, you can stay here. I have a spare room." The couple looked at each other and smiled and went into the house. They sat down and they were given something to eat, something simple, but something wholesome. And they looked at the fire and they felt the warmth, not only of the fire, but of this couple who chatted, who talked, and they never mentioned where they came from, where they were going, or the celebration which happened earlier in the day. The couple were shown to the bedroom, and it was a lovely room. It was large, and it looked in pristine condition. Clearly the woman was very house proud, and the smell of polish could meet you as you walked in the door. In the morning time, the couple came into the kitchen and they had something to eat. But before they did come into the kitchen, they noticed as they were walking through the living area that there were blankets in both chairs at either side of the fire and pillows from a bed. And then they both realised this couple didn't have a spare room at all, but rather they opened their door and they gave them what they had. That charity and that generosity is beyond compare. The couple thanked him and walked out with hearts that were full of joy to begin the adventure of married life. They wrote to them to say thank you for their kindness. It would seem that today our world has lost an aptitude for being kind, but that is too pessimistic. On this great feast day, we remember all the people who were kind to us. We know that they are in our Father's home. It is our duty to carry on that tradition and to carry on that heritage, to be builders of God's kingdom where we are planted, to build his kingdom of peace, of true justice, of love, and following in the footsteps of the Master, serving our neighbour. Today we remember all saints, and where they have gone, we hope to follow. We pray for the grace, the courage, and the determination to pick up our daily cross and with joy follow in the footsteps of the Master. Today is the feast day beyond compare, a feast day in which we all remember and can take part.